Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Monday, June 17th school committee meeting to order here at the Colbert School. We're going to take a couple of things out of order this evening. I'm going to hand it over to Mayor Joyce for a statement, and then we will continue with the agenda.
Do you have to do it?
No, town council is different.
Well, good evening, everyone, fellow school committee members, community members joining. Though there doesn't appear to be too many people in person this evening, but maybe those who are watching remotely now, who may be catching this on replay because, well, life is really busy right now. So as many of you hopefully know by now, Braintree came together in a huge way on Saturday and approved with 67% of the voters in favor an $8 million operational override, the first in our history, which goes towards the funding of the town's fiscal year 25 budget and very importantly goes towards the upcoming school year. $4 million of our override, as we've stated, will be immediately allocated back to the schools to buy back programming that was identified for cuts as part of the budgeting process in April. And Superintendent Lee will be reviewing the buybacks later this evening. Just as a refresher for everyone, it's been a few weeks since we've presented that information, so we wanted to share it this evening. In order to put the funds to work and to sustain the benefit of the override, as we've talked about over the last several weeks, beyond just next year, as we've anticipated, I'm going to be asking that the school committee continue to vet areas to save money in the years ahead. Additionally, my office is currently working through on a contract with a DESE-approved vendor to perform a financial audit and a cost savings identification study of our school finances to further find ways to maintain our programming while staying on budget. The override has certainly buffered us some time to make strategic decisions on these cost savings measures so that we're not making them quickly and without thoughtful consideration of any domino effects, as we know are likely in town government. In the months ahead, we need to thoughtfully work on our redistricting plan while evaluating all of our school buildings for a future need and use perspective and preparing a detailed capital investment plan for fiscal year 25. I'm happy to announce that my administration will be leveling up the town's capital plan for fiscal year 25 and beyond to outline all of our town facilities, planned investments at those facilities, needed improvements, prioritization, and a 5-year outlook for funding. We've heard so many times from our residents that we need to have a collaborative discussion around future building needs and uses, especially one that ties into the district's current and projected student body enrollments. So we're getting underway this summer on exactly that. This has not been tackled before in this way, and we're happy to be jumping right into it. Importantly, even with this override passing, we have to continue to realize cost savings measures that preserve our programming to ensure that our students have the best education possible this next year and in the years ahead. We know that expenses are not going down. Inflationary costs are a real challenge, and we need to make sure our discussions around where we're going as a district are strategic and encompassing of both the programs we want and the infrastructure we need. To end on a happy note, we are moving forward. And we are moving forward in a big way after Saturday's vote. Our town's positive vote on Saturday affirms the pride and commitment that Braintree residents have to everyone working in our school district. We see you, we appreciate you, and we are here to support you. For that, I have to say thank you. Thank you for coming together and making history. Thank you for helping us choose a strong path forward. And congratulations to everyone watching. You did it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel and
Dr. Horick has joined. Mr. Rollo is also on the line.
I just want to make mention that because we have 2 people that are participating remotely, any votes that we have to take by roll call. So with that, I want to also move another thing up in the agenda. So that from superintendent and staff, consideration of a vote to close Manacoot School Kindergarten Center at the conclusion of the 2023-2024 school year. Just before we're going to go into discussion, did you have a statement or discussion you wanted to?
I can certainly make one. We have been preparing over the last few months to move the classes that are currently in Manacoot back to the home schools. Teachers at Manacoot have been feverishly packing and they have a lot of stuff. And we've been working with facilities on a schedule to move their materials to their new sites, in essence, as soon as school ends. So we are in position to have the kindergartens back in the home schools next year, and vacating Manaquit in that process.
I just wanted to mention that I was on the school committee 10 years ago when we voted to open the Manaquit School as a kindergarten center. There was much apprehension back there about creating a kindergarten center. And I just wanted to thank all of the teachers and the staff and the administration that have worked there over the last 10 years, because it really has been a wonderful place for teaching and learning. And I want to thank them. And I certainly understand why we're in the position we are tonight and why we need to vote to close the Manaquit. But again, I just want to thank those individuals who really made it a place where, a very successful kindergarten center and where the students really thrived. So thank you. Is there any other discussion from the committee?
I'd just like to add just a perspective on the potential benefit that closing the school has to potential addition income for the town. So the town recently issued an RFP for the lease use by a third party of the school. So looking at the RFP, the responses aren't due back until June 24th. So we don't know officially who will end up leasing that space, but we did advertise it for $12 a square foot. We would be looking for, and it's about 24,000 square feet. So if you back into that, we'd be looking at about $290,000 annually to our budget by being able to use that building for a third party. And it will be a school use. So from a neighborhood perspective, the use will remain a school similarly to it is now. So just a perspective on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
I had a question.
Okay.
Would the revenue from leasing Manaquit, from that leasing that building, go to the school's operating budget?
The revenue will go to the town, but it is additional town general fund money that could be used in the schools. Yeah. But it doesn't stay in the schools. It goes to the town's general fund.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thanks.
By voting tonight to close it as a school, we're giving it back to the town. So it becomes a town building.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Any questions or comments from those remote?
Nobody has, well, both Dr. Horak and Mr. Rollo can chime in.
Any questions or comments about the building? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Rollo, I didn't hear you.
I said I have no comment.
Okay. And Dr. Horak as well, I assume.
No comment.
Okay, great. Okay. So then I asked for a motion to close the Manaquit School Kindergarten Center.
I'd like to make a motion to close the Manaquit School Kindergarten Center at the conclusion of the 2023-2024 school year.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Tuffy and a second by Mr. Lynch. All those in favor? Oh, excuse me. I do need to do a roll call. Mr. Fogarty.
Aye.
Mayor Joyce.
Aye.
Ms. Tuffy.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Dr. Horak.
Aye.
Mr. Rollo.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, now we are going to move back to the agenda in order. So at this point, public comment. I don't see anybody present.
We have 9 attendees, none of whom have their hand up for public comment.
Then we move into routine matters. Approval of open session minutes, May 20th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Tuffy,
Second.
second by Mr. Lynch. Mr. Fogarty.
Aye.
Mayor Joyce.
Aye.
Ms. Tuffy.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Dr. Horak.
Aye.
Mr. Rollo.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That is unanimous. We also tonight need to approve an amendment to the January 8th school committee minutes. We received a complaint from Mr. Berner that his comments in the public comments section of our minutes dated January 8th in the public comments section on page 3 were inaccurate. So we have removed 3 words, off school grounds, and are asking the committee tonight to please approve the amended minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Tuffy,
Second.
second by Mr. Lynch. Mr. Fogarty.
Aye.
Mayor Joyce.
Aye.
Ms. Tuffy.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Dr. Horak.
Aye.
Mr. Rollo.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That is unanimous. Moving into communications and accommodations.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. So this evening in your packets, you have a number of materials, the first of which is an updated copy of the artificial intelligence policy that will be on the July agenda. It's for your review at this point. No other action needs to be taken. We have shared this document with the BEA for any feedback that they might have, and we would revisit this at the July school committee meeting. Also in there is a revised copy of the audit review. Several members had questions about some of the findings in the previous version. We had communications with them and they've revised it and sent it back with no findings against the district whatsoever. Great work by Sarah and her team. You'll also find in your packet a listing of the NCTA, the Norfolk County Teachers Association Award winners, including several of our own staff members, including Cassie Houlihan, Christine Norris, Denise Spalding, being recognized for their outstanding service in education for our students. So we applaud them for that. There's also a letter in there thanking Blue Hills Pain Clinic, who donated a great deal of furniture to the schools, which we have deployed based on a first come, first served basis. But it was very kind of them to reach out to us to see if we needed anything and then to share that furniture with us. You'll also find a profile of the class of 2024, which is basically where they're planning on going after their graduation. A couple of weeks ago, you will see that, again, close to 90% of our students are going on to further their education in some capacity. There is a slight trend in two-year colleges as an increase. Anecdotally, we believe it's really families making financial decisions about how to best approach the college process. We don't see anything other than that. So I'm coming back to that. So there for your purview, you can also take a look at where our students will be going off to school. There's a listing in the back that mentions all the colleges that they're going to. And I would be remiss if we did not acknowledge, and actually we're fortunate to have her here tonight, Nancy Moynihan, Queen of all things graduation, for the graduation ceremony that was held on June 1st on the football field. She dialed in some excellent weather. Everything went off without a hitch, which it always does. And I thought it was a wonderful day for all our students and families. And then lastly, the MSBA held an annual My Ideal School contest. And one of the top 10 finalists out of thousands of submissions was our own Serena Savage, a first grader from Flaherty Elementary School, seen here at the State House with her teacher, Allison Fournier. And then in the second picture, obviously, I think we know Senator Keenan and Senator Timilty. So congratulations to her. It was a good exercise in trying to think of what a good school could look like and the planning that goes around creating such a diagram. But she doesn't look happy at all, so that's too bad. Kudos to her. So those are the communications for this meeting.
Are there any questions or comments on the communications and accommodations from the committee? Hearing none. Just congratulations to the award recipients, obviously to Serena. Graduation did go off without a hitch. The weather was beautiful. So thanks to everybody who contributes. Moving on to gifts to schools. Again, I will read all the gifts to schools and we'll ask for one motion and one vote. Bay State Textiles, 3 checks totaling $464.47. South Middle School gifts to schools totaling $23,648.80. 2 deposits in the amount of $2,520 and $2,840 for the Treetops Field Trip Grade 7. 1 deposit in the amount of $2,070 for the Treetop Field Trip Grade 8. 2 deposits in the amount of $3,485 and $5,019 for 8th grade field trips. 1 deposit in the amount of $4,472.80 for the Scholastic Book Fair. 1 deposit in the amount of $3,242 for the 6th and 8th grade field trips to Treetops and for the Trills and Thrills field trip. East Middle School gifts to schools totaling $28,705. 1 deposit in the amount of $28,705. These funds were collected from the yearbook, $160, Student Council, $15, Mass East Music Department, Grade East Field Trip, $13,000, Grade 6 Field Trip, $20, and Grade 8 Field Trip, $15,510. Braintree High School gifts to schools totaling $27,363.95. One donation in the amount of $250 from the Braintree Rotary to be used towards the all-night graduation party. one deposit in the amount of $300 for the BHS baseball team from their hat sale fundraiser, one deposit in the amount of $450 for the BHS softball team from the Braintree Baseball Club fundraiser, one deposit in the amount of $150 for the girls volleyball team from the volleyball clinic fundraiser, and one deposit in the amount of $26,213.95 for the general athletic account from the Braintree High School Athletic Association turkey trot closing of account. Inadequate School Kindergarten Center gifts to schools totaling $807.70. One deposit in the amount of $261 from the MSKC gift fundraiser. One check in the amount of $9.90 from the Box Tops for Education. One check in the amount of $536.80 from the Square One Art fundraiser. And the district-wide gifts to schools, which Mr. Lee mentioned. One donation from the Blue Hills Pain Care Clinic at 639 Granite Street, which was closing. Their donation included the following: 3 large file cabinets, 1 tall, narrow 5-drawer file cabinet, 1 4-drawer file cabinet, 1 bench, 1 desk, and miscellaneous office supplies. With that, do I have a motion to accept all of these gifts?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Tuffy,
Second.
a second by Mr. Lynch. Mr. Fogarty.
Aye.
Mayor Joyce.
Aye.
Ms. Tuffy.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Dr. Horak.
Aye.
Mr. Rolo.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That is unanimous. Moving on. Veteran staff.
So this evening, we have with us Dr. Scully and Nancy Moynihan from the high school. On the agenda, you will see we have the proposed Braintree High School handbook changes for the following year. Ms. Moynihan came to policy to review some of these changes before, but they're here again to walk you through what we're proposing for next year. You want to step up to the mic, please?
Thank you for having us, everybody. And I know that the members of the subcommittee had a chance to hear this, and hopefully the summary page at the top gives a brief overview of the changes. Process of going through the handbook is annual. We speak as an administrative group. We take input from teachers, from other administrators, from students often who have ideas about how we can adjust the handbook. And then as a process, we work as a team. We narrow it down, we look at the language, and we recommend changes. Some of these are, I'll say minor. You know, sometimes there are things that have just changed over time, and we amend them, and those are slightly more than grammatical. And then others represent sort of a change of thinking or sort of an update that has a little bit more consequence to it. So we can talk through each of them, or if the
You want to walk through the bullet, point, please?
so the first one, I'll take the first one. Ms. Moynihan will take a few in the middle.
And in the middle. is
We'll
that
see,
right?
yeah. In other words, I'll do one
I know
thing
how this
and
works.
then sit back. One item on athletics, and the item on athletics does two things. The first is one of those changes that are either clerical or for the smooth functioning of the handbook itself, eliminating specific amounts from the section on athletic fees. This committee has discussed athletic fees. It's just a function of, rather than having to print it and come to you with a change every single year, we'll say in the handbook, there is an athletic fee. The athletics handbook, which is more of a user guide for families, talks about that year to year. So that's really just to avoid having to make that change every year. And then the second item, which is a little bit more consequential, but actually tries to put into place what really has been our practice for the last several years, is that we're clarifying a term called conditional eligibility status. These are for students who meet the MIAA eligibility requirements, but do not meet our eligibility requirements, which are actually higher than the MIAA. This comes out of a lot of conversation with the athletic department, with our administrative team, with some research for other schools. What we found was when we went out and looked at, say, the rest of the conference, most schools just follow MIAA standards and leave it at that, which would be pass 4 out of 5 classes, done. In our handbook, we look for students to pass 5 classes. We also look for an overall average of 70, which I think is the important part here in the conversation. What we were running into was a number of students who, number one, the vast majority of students are eligible year to year, season to season. We're usually talking about, say, 5 or 6 students that want to compete and can't by our standards, would be eligible by the MIA, but wouldn't be eligible by our handbook. And we would look at those, in the majority of cases, we would find a situation where there were extenuating circumstances why a student passed all their classes and had a 69 average. So what we would put into place, we had a process where they could request a waiver. And we would usually put into place some sort of set of conditions that say, yes, you can compete, but we expect you to meet these conditions either by the middle of the term or sort of that might be checking in X number of times per week with a teacher or weekly progress reports or something like that. So what we've done is rather than have that be sort of an ad hoc, if you happen to know to ask for a waiver, we've tried to spell it out in the handbook. So if a student is eligible by the state, not eligible by the handbook, we can put in place a plan by which they are conditionally eligible. Usually we have a date where we check back in middle of the term or something like that. One of the reasons that we are doing it is because we have found that when we put students on waivers, it often results in a significant change to their academic work. So if you just say you're ineligible, sometimes the students become less interested. If you say you need to meet with your English teacher twice a week and we're going to check your grades in 4 weeks, tends to get students' attention. So we just wanted to codify that and make it more of a set process in the handbook rather than something that happened at times. That's athletics.
Let me just keep going. Question.
Any questions? Or-
No, I had questions as why you were adding it, but you answered it, so I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good like that. The second one, excused absences, we just wanted to add some clarifying language for notes that we're getting from medical professionals. Sometimes we get real blanket statements about please excuse all tardies and absences from now till the end of the year. Or I got one recently that said the mother called to tell me her child wasn't feeling well, so please excuse the absence. So this really just clarifies what we would like in the letter so that we can then consider it for excusal. It is at the principal's discretion to excuse them. We typically do. Extreme cases, we'll take a little bit of a closer look, but that more or less just is clarifying that, we need the dates that they were seen or the dates that the doctor is actually excusing. I'll just keep going unless I see a hand. Okay. Student records, this is truly just updating language and clarifying language, what we do with a temporary record when seniors leave, that they'll be notified on or around June 1st of how to request a copy of their record. And then we also just updated language about if someone is transferring, withdrawing from Braintree High, that it will be sent to the new school and then destroyed at the end of the school year. So that's just clarifying that language. Vaping is in a few areas in our handbook. And as you can imagine, things progress rather quickly. So part of this was just updating language, removing things like Juul devices and Juul pods. Those are not what kids are smoking right now. So we updated kind of the devices that kids are using. One big addition was one of the things we started 2 years ago was when a student is caught vaping, we then isolate the bathroom that they are allowed to use. Typically, vaping is a group activity. And so what we do is we remove the child that's been caught and they're required to use a specified bathroom where they have to sign in, sign out, single-use bathroom. And it has really reduced those students from participating in vaping. We do it for 3 weeks, which is our social probation period, which is part of the consequence for vaping for the first offense. And then on the second offense, it goes up to 6 weeks. And that's really been helpful. We also clarified under consequences that if the student is caught vaping nicotine, it's an extended day detention. However, if they are caught vaping THC oil, that is something that we consider to be drugs and marijuana. So it would be a suspension similar to the same as our drug suspension, which is 4 days.
Can I ask a question at this point?
Sure.
So for the first offense, I see the social probation, the 3 weeks, and then the second offense, it says for the 30 days following the infraction. And the third offense also says for the 30 days following the infraction. So is it 30 days from the first infraction?
Yeah, it should be 30 days from the infraction. What was happening was social probation is 3 weeks. So social probation is kids can't go to games or activities. They can participate in their sport, but they can't go to the game of another sport. What was happening was, and that includes vacations. We have activities over vacation. So it was just 3 weeks. What we were finding is that the kids we were isolating in the bathroom, we would say 3 weeks and like vacation would be in there. And by the time you did all the math, they really only had to use a specified bathroom for 6, 7, 8 days. So that's why we changed the language to be 30, it should be 30 school days. And so Lisa, I don't know if
You didn't answer it. So And maybe I'm just reading it wrong. So the second offense, so it's
Second offense.
so the second offense, regardless of whatever the first offense was. So for the 30 days following the infraction, but it's the second offense. And then the third offense for the 30 days following the infraction. So is it the third offense? So for every one, it's another 30 days.
Correct.
Okay, that's my question.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's fine. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Search and seizure, this is something that, we wanted to clarify. We do not come across this often, but it has happened, where students who refuse to be searched. Typically this is, we are looking for some sort of drugs. Sometimes it is weapons. And we have had kids refuse to be searched. And we wanted to clarify the language because the old language talked about referring, to the Braintree Police almost too quickly. We have changed the language that any student who refuses a reasonable search on part of the administration may be referred to the Braintree Police. In addition, they will face disciplinary consequences for both insubordination, refusing to be searched, and the consequence that would have applied for whatever we were looking for. So if we were looking for drugs and they refused to let us search them, they're suspended for the 4 days for the drugs and an additional day for insubordination. The reason we do that is because if a child we want to search someone for drugs and they refuse, and it's the same disciplinary consequences if we found something, every single kid would refuse to be searched because then they could hold on to what they have and shouldn't have. And they would just refuse to be searched all day long. So we have to make it a little bit harsher so that they allow us to search. When we do search, I think it's, you need to know this, it's very uninvasive. We hardly put our hands on them. We search their person and their bag. I search females, my male colleagues search the males, and it's truly unobserved. So I say that because we do this more often than we'd like, but people who would hear that for the first time might be concerned.
The kids use lockers anymore?
No.
No one's searching lockers anymore. Okay.
We will search cars if we think it's appropriate.
Any other questions on that?
Offenses for which an out-of-school suspension could be assigned. We are adding that someone who is caught filming a fight could be a cause for suspension. When there's a physical altercation going around and people are just pulling out their phones as opposed to trying to get help or to stop it or to jump in and help stop it, we find to be very problematic. We do have a ton of cameras going up in the school right now, which is fabulous. And we're not going to need those videos for anything. And unfortunately, one of the bigger issues that people don't often think of is not only are they filming the fight and letting the fight continue, but then they're taking that fight and they're posting it. They're posting it out on social media, which is causing the issue to perpetuate. The kids involved are upset because usually they're very regretful after the fact. And now this thing just keeps popping up every couple months. There's the fight again, and it starts the problem back over again. So that's really why we have such an issue with that. Am I still going? I'll keep going. I'm good.
I'll take the next two.
All right.
Okay, our cell phone and electronic devices policy. I think we've spoken before this group previously. The assistant principals last summer did a lot of work to mount cell phone holders in classrooms, actually in every instructional space. We received a grant from the state to purchase some of those holders, also purchase some boxes that that may be more appropriate in certain classrooms. And we have found that it's been a positive for our school. It has limited distraction. It has limited and I guess clarified issues that we have with cell phone use in classrooms. It's not perfect. It's our first year of implementation. So we do want to continue and start fresh in the fall and sort of reinvigorate that initiative. But we also felt that adding it as policy would make it a little bit more clear for everybody. So we had it as a pilot program. We'd like to start it as policy.
Can I just add nothing but positive support from the community? Assistant principals probably made over 500 phone calls this year to parents and nothing but support. Maybe one or two pause questions, but as soon as we explain what was going on, nothing but support.
And can I interrupt one thing? Can you explain so that the students come into the classroom and they put their phone in the pocket and then they don't use the phone? Do they use the phone for BYOD at all or?
Infrequently. There may be occasionally somebody has a quiz online or something, but generally they'll enter in cell phone in the pocket and then we have class. Different teachers have different ways of doing this, sort of where it's mounted in your room. Some teachers have been taking attendance by it, right? If so, in a classroom, if all of us have a number, very quickly you can look at the cell phone pocket and know who was here or who was not there. You can also say, Nancy, where's your cell phone? Because number 7 is empty, and so they can use that. So different teachers have used it different ways in terms of the start of it. At the start of the year, I even saw a couple teachers practice it once or twice. They said, okay, let's everybody out into the hall, in the first couple of days of school, the same way you would go over expectations. They said, okay, everybody out in the hall. Now let's practice going in and putting it in the pocket. So they've built it into their routines. And generally, the expectation is it goes in the pocket and it's not used all the way through.
Parents are supportive.
They've been great. Parents have been great. I actually had to call a couple and say, can you please come get it? I've had it 2 weeks now. Some are just because they're done. They're tired of it as well. They realize kids shouldn't have it at school. I think it's giving them a break because their kids aren't texting them every few minutes asking for something. So, a couple parents were concerned. We had some concerns whether there's going to be any type of theft. There's been nothing. One of the reasons we got the lock boxes there are certain classrooms like the gymnasium where the teacher isn't right near there. So we're going to get them lock boxes just to add added security. Parents have been fantastic. And so we make it, the first offense, we call the parent and they get it back at the end of the day. The second offense that we hold on to it till a parent will pick it up. Well, we have a security guard in the building till 8:00 at night. So I say to the parent, take your time. There's no rush getting here. They don't have to leave work to come get it. Some can get it. They can come get it right away if they want. And then the third offense is we come up with a plan, which typically has ended with a student having to hand it into the house office at the beginning of the day. Then we keep it for the day. Then we slowly reintegrate it. They get it at lunch because all kids get it at lunch. Kids are allowed to use it inside their study hall. If they want to leave their study hall to go use the restroom or to go see another teacher, they have to leave their phone. That way the kids aren't leaving and going to the bathroom and hanging out on their phones. So it's worked really well. It's worked really well.
A whole layer of discipline and just even like with the distraction of it is crazy. Like even I find myself looking at the phone and an hour later, an hour goes by and you get into these holes or, looking at it when they're supposed to be paying attention to class or whatever. So I think I love this. I think this is a great idea.
And understand that both middle schools operate under a similar policy. And you obviously just had the Surgeon General come out looking for warning labels to be applied to phones because of such a problem for kids. So I think it's great.
I just have a brief question. So, as a parent and a teacher, I know that there are always kids that forget and leave things behind. So if a student leaves their cell phone when they exit class, if they leave it behind by mistake, what happens when the next class comes in? Does the teacher hold on to it so there aren't 2 cell phones in that pocket?
Yeah, the teacher will usually grab it and hold it at their desk.
And the
Student comes running back for it.
Before they get around the corner.
pass from there.
Yeah.
Has that been an issue at all that with students getting
Not really.
them?
Not really. I mean, truly the APs were concerned about, theft or someone taking the wrong phone on purpose, and it really hasn't happened. I mean, someone else's phone isn't necessarily good to anyone else. So I think the kids just all they care about is their phone. So we've had a couple little, some kids test us I just had a student who has 2 phones, which I discovered. Caught her. No, I'm kidding. But so I just called the mother and the mom was great. I sent 2 phones on that day. So, the parents have been great. They truly have been fantastic and are really supportive about it. We do have a very small population who still feel as if that phone needs to be attached in case there's an emergency. And we just try to reinforce that. That's why there's, Braintree High School has always been unique. We answer our phone. When you call, we answer our phone. And so if there's an emergency, you'll get an individual who can get whoever you need. So we're still trying to enforce that culture with everybody. We do have very few isolated cases that we work with the nurse's office for students. And some kids need it for like diabetes and the sugar count and things like that. So obviously we have very few exceptions for things like that.
Question.
Mr. Hogarty.
So just to be clear, this is not mandatory in all the classes at Braintree High School, the phone system when you have pockets.
Are you asking, is it mandatory? This year, we piloted it and we strongly encouraged everybody to use it. One of the reasons we would like to make a policy is so that it is mandatory. And that I think will add a little bit of teeth to it and help us. Most teachers, every teacher that used it thoroughly said, this is a no-brainer. I don't know why everybody's not using it. Most people do use it. I think like anything, people might get a little tired or forget or whatever. I mean, I've done it too. I've covered classes and 5 minutes in the class, I'm like, oh, phone's up in the holder, and kids will do it.
Kids are generally, they'll cooperate.
Yes.
Do it.
Yep.
Had good luck with it, I think.
Yep. For my entire time in Braintree, we said Braintree kids are good kids. They do what we ask them to do. And when they see the other 25 doing it, they will do it.
The last item really is preventative and hopefully something that doesn't come up based on experiences or based on incidents that came up at some area schools. We've added some language just to specifically note that using technology to harass or to impugn the character or reputation of somebody through, say, what is generally called deepfake technology, sort of, putting somebody else's face on another image of somebody else's body, or sort of making somebody appear to do something, just to clarify that that's not okay. And if that is harassing, we'll investigate it under harassment. If it's bullying, we investigate it under bullying. Like I said, this is not in response to something that we've had at our school, but based on a few incidents at a couple area schools, we want to put it in there just to spell it out for anybody should it come up. The last item is just in general, Mr. Lee and Bernaza can point out from being in high school principal chairs that you can read the handbook 100 times, and then you read it time 101, you say, that paragraph doesn't make any sense, or that comma's in the wrong place. And so there's always something each year where we just clarify and fix up the grammar, or change a word or two.
Just a point that we brought up in policy and education, the link that's to the network and technology responsible use policy is an old link to the 2017 policy. And that policy was updated on March 18th, 2024.
Okay,
So
this year.
You need to make, if you're going to use a link in the handbook, you need to make sure it connects.
Ms. Moynihan mentioned that when she was reporting back. So I think what we'll do is we'll make a study of the handbook. There are links in other places, and it made me think there may be a few other links that are now going to pages that are out of date. So we'll review the links all the way through to the right.
Let's focus.
I had a question just about the cell phone policy. It seems to me like part of the purpose of it is to limit kids using social media in class or communicating in something they're supposed to be learning. But do some kids, since a lot of students now have like laptops with them, like do kids have like open laptops at their desk where some kids are able to do that through their computer?
Yep.
You want to take this?
Sure. Yes. So kids, especially kids with MacBooks, they can text with MacBooks. They can message each other from their Chromebooks. They can message each other from their watches. I think we're trying to start with something that's manageable. I would hope that parents would also support us and realize that these are not things that kids should be using in school. You are absolutely correct. But there's only so much I can, if a student comes in with a MacBook and that's their device, there's only so much I can do as far as controlling that. We have had teachers highlight that for us. And I think moving forward, we will start addressing that on an individual basis to see if there's a way to manage that. I'm not quite sure. It lends itself also to earbuds, because the only reason you should be wearing earbuds is because you're listening to something from your phone. So your phone's over there and you got earbuds in, something's going on. So now we have to think about earbuds. So you are absolutely correct. I think it's a matter of how much can we manage. I can't, obviously we're not going to start taking kids' computers away from them. And I don't want to start collecting watches or things like that. So, but those are all good questions because you're absolutely right.
Yeah, 'cause I can imagine that in school now, there must be classes where everybody has a computer open because the work is being done on a computer.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, and there are tools, I mean, there are tools that we want them to use that they can communicate either through email or sometimes through like even commenting on a document. But I think part of what we're trying to do is establish a culture and establish expectations. Specifically, we can do something physically with the cell phones, but also let it be known like class time is for class time. And also, I think just to add to that is one thing that we do, and Ms. Moynihan mentioned, student might sort of be at a stage where they get the phone back during lunch. We don't want school to become totally dissimilar to life, right? I mean, sort of, we use that tool, that's technology that we use, we communicate, but there's a time and a place. And so I think that's part of what we're trying to teach, particularly as students get to be 16, 17, 18 years old, trying to find that balance. This is appropriate here, it's not appropriate here. So that's part of the goals of the whole policy.
And the other piece, just to add back to it, is when that does happen, if a teacher notices someone's texting or distracted, now we treat that more just as off task, class disruption. So even though it may not be technology-based discipline, it is, we often say to kids, if you come to school with a Chromebook that's not charged, you're not prepared for class. So you didn't bring your textbook, you didn't bring a notebook, you didn't bring a charged Chromebook. So we try to take that angle at it, that if you're texting or looking at your watch or whatever, now you're off task. And so we would approach it from that angle as opposed to a technology angle, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I mean, it's even an issue in the workplace, cell phones. People that should be focusing on their work and you walk by in their cubicles and their phones. So it's a whole culture, yeah. Any other questions Dr. Horak or Mr. Rolo, any questions about any of the handbook?
Can I ask one question about the laptops and stuff? So if they were school issued laptops, the teachers would have more control over those, correct? Right, so if they were school issued Chromebooks, don't the teachers have slightly more control over being able to see screens, and doesn't that unlock some feature sets?
I don't believe the school issued Chromebooks have the texting app or application. You're talking to a technology idiot, so bear with me. I don't believe kids have the capacity to text from a school issued Chromebook. That is true. There is, I believe, some level of software where teachers, if their kids are taking a test, they can see everybody's screen. But that's not necessarily connected to a school issued device, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I just was curious.
Yeah, and just recall that all these devices are on the school's network. So we obviously monitor all the traffic that's on there. And we have some authority over what can be done on our network, regardless of whose device it is.
Right, a lot of websites and links are blocked. They couldn't get to.
Yeah, my only comment is I think that these are smart updates to the handbook that help improve the learning environment for all students.
Thank you.
I would agree.
First night?
Yeah, I know it's first night. This is first reading. We normally don't vote on first reading, but I know that this is time sensitive because we want to get the handbooks ready for the 24-25. So does anybody object to having first night action on these proposed updates?
As long as the
I do.
links, the links,
sorry.
the links are
Yes.
incorrect, and those need to be fixed.
Mr. Rowley, you do?
Yeah, I would like to have a little bit more time to look at it.
Okay, so we meet again on July 22nd.
That can work.
Is that okay? July 22nd?
Yes.
Okay.
We work with, when they're approved, we work with the central office to make sure everything is posted to the website. We would want that in place. Ideally, at the high school, we start talking to families in, say, the second week of August about coming back. It's helpful to us to have stuff then so we can refer to it.
Do you print some off as well for if anybody wants a hard copy or not anymore?
We no longer distribute a whole bunch. We may have some.
We're going to talk about that because I think if there's a few of us that would like a hard copy, I think we might print like 50 copies. Typically in the past, we've given to a school committee, but I think they're good to have in the house office just as a quick reference, but we do no longer give them to all kids.
Okay.
Because they just weren't reading them.
But if a parent requested one, would they be able to get one? A hard
They really wanted a hard copy.
Yeah.
We would
curious if
probably refer them to the website. because usually they're looking for a specific policy.
And you-
Yes, we're not facing a print deadline for 2,000 books any longer to distribute to everybody.
Yes. Okay, all right, so with that, then this is just the first reading, we'll take it up on July 22nd. Great, thank you both for being here. Okay, so the consideration of proposed 2024-2025 school committee dates.
We have
Ms. Tuffy.
a question or proposal. I think that we have school committee members with young families that go on vacation. I certainly go on vacation. And it's hard to plan the summer trip if you don't know when the school committee dates are. So I would like us to add a July and August date for next year. And it could be, certainly we can change it if it's necessary, but in general, we've been meeting like mid-July and our August meeting has been canceled. So it would be, I think it would be helpful for committee members to have a general idea of when those summer meetings are, so we could plan accordingly. This is a voluntary position, and we do want to be here as much as possible. Would it be acceptable to put in like July 14th next year and August 11th as tentative dates?
Anybody have any objections to that?
I'm racing ahead on my calendar to see if there's anything there yet.
Sorry, what was it?
July, looking at the calendar, July 14th, that would avoid the 4th of July
Yep.
weekend and
And August 11th?
yes.
I mean, we'd certainly put them on the calendar, and as we get closer, if things need to change, as any meeting we do, if something comes up and we need to change it.
But
Yeah, I
it
have
would
no
give
objection
us,
to that.
give us an idea of when it would be scheduled.
Sure.
So it's a lot of times you have weeks that are booked up fast in the summer for different places.
Any discussion on that? Any comments or from anybody? No? Okay. Are those dates good for you as well?
I quickly looked, there's nothing big on those dates currently, so I think it's fine. It's the logic behind why those dates makes perfect sense to me in terms of probably
Planning.
dead time, so.
So we will add July 14th and August 11th, 2025.
And do you want to modify the current 8/19 to 8/12?
Yes, please. So July 22nd and then August 12th. And again, if there's not a lot, or if there's nothing this time critical in August, as Ms. Tuffy said, we have in the past canceled our August meeting. So we will see if there's anything time critical that we need to address in August. Okay, so this is just a, recognition, whatever you want to call it, acknowledgement of that these are our dates. There's no vote needed or anything. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so moving into from the school committee, policy and education subcommittee. Ms. Tuffy.
So policy and education subcommittee met on June 4th. We discussed the AI policy, and I gave a legislative update. This is the end of the legislative session. So what's significant for Braintree is the Chapter 770 funding. The Governor Healy had proposed $30 per pupil. House raised that to $104 a pupil, and the Senate raised it to $110 per pupil. So the House, in the House budget, the Chapter 70 money would be an additional $383,394 for Braintree. And the Senate version would be an additional $414,480 for Braintree. At this time, the budget's passed both the House and the Senate, and it's in the it goes to conference committee. Governor may change those amounts. If we get an additional $300,000 or $400,000, can we use some of that money to reinstate the programs that we had to eliminate from our budget, the elementary media and the 8th grade writing?
The money would go to the town, so we'd have to have a conversation with the mayor's office. But certainly that's a lot of money. And we would be able to do several different things with it.
So we have had an issue in the past with federal money being used to balance the town's budget rather than going to academic purposes as intended. So I'm hopeful that if we get that additional funds, we can use it to reinstate those 2 programs that we passed during the school committee included in their budget.
We can certainly have that conversation with the mayor and the finance director
Okay.
when the final numbers come in, as far as how much money of that money would
So
actually come.
hopefully we'll know by the end of July, but the legislature has been late approving their budget for the last, I don't know how many years. Last year it was almost September before it was approved. But if that is part of the budget, I would like to see those programs which directly affect our student learning to be reinstated. So the other issues we have is we made some changes as requested to the negotiation policies. For policy HB, we specified the chapter and section of Mass General Law referred to in the policy. So it's defined by MGL 150E section 1. So we added that phrase. And for policy HH, the previous draft, the first reading draft didn't include the names of the list of employees whose positions are not included in collective bargaining, and those have been added.
Any questions on the policy for the changes or additions to the policies that were requested? All right.
So I would like to make a motion that we approve policy HA, negotiation goals, policy HB, negotiations, legal status, policy HF, school committee negotiations agent, and policy HH, employee negotiations organizations.
I have a motion by Ms. Tuffy,
Second.
second by Mr. Lynch. Mr. Fogarty,
Aye.
Ms. Tuffy,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Dr. Horak,
Aye.
Mr. Rolo,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you to the policy committee for their work on those. Then on to Finance and Operations Subcommittee. We also met on June 4th and we discussed the override did not pass, what it was going to look like. And with this, I'll turn it over to the superintendent to tell us the impact with it passing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So obviously, with the passing of the override, it is a dramatic shift in the conversations we have been having that would have come to play if the override did not pass. So one, thank you for all the people who were involved in the campaign. There's a lot of hours and volunteer time and weekends and standing outside and knocking on doors and a host of other things to get this accomplished. So kudos to all the people who participated in that and did the hard work that was necessary to get this thing past the finish line. So with the override passing, the money coming back to the schools will result in the following. We will not redistrict for next year. That is now a process that can be put on hold. And we can continue to have conversations about the best way to pursue that as we look for the following year. Elementary specials remain intact. So this would include media. Things did not stop from our previous conversations. From a special ed position that we would not bring back at the high school, the closing of Inadequate, freeing up a reading specialist position, and in the scheduling process, identifying a teacher at South that we do not need because of class sizes, we were able to bring back media. So that those notices would go out to teachers who were impacted previously tomorrow, and we will build it back into the schedule. So to answer part of your question,
I'm very happy to see that
You
I'm
would
back
be.
in.
you're about 5 minutes ahead of me.
I think we're all happy.
Thank you very much. I'm
Nora and Sarah did the preponderance of this work. Class sizes in BHS, they are going to, you'll see on the next slide, they still lose staff, but we should be able to maintain class sizes on average of 25 or lower. And so that, again, true gift for all the kids who are there, whose schedules would have looked completely differently had the override not passed. The override puts back in grade 5 math lab. That program will be reinstated, which will reduce studies or eliminate studies for grade 5. Middle school levels will remain. So we had conversations about heterogeneously grouping everybody that will not be necessary with the funding now available. As we've discussed previously, the external superintendent search is funded. Media is returned not only in the elementary schools, but also at the high school. We have had conversations about accreditation. That is one of the components that they would look at. So that is a beneficial piece as well. Preserves art and music in the middle schools and the high schools. And you'll see it on the next slide. It's not completely intact, meaning we are losing some positions, but the overall program will remain at both the middle school and high school. And this will allow us to maintain world languages that are currently being offered in grade 7. So from a broad perspective, these are the benefits and they are notable. Let's see if I can. Hey, can you move the box, please? This just breaks it down more concretely about what the differences look like. Thanks, sir. So in Inadequate, the position is the principal's position. With Inadequate closing, Ms. Anderson will be moving over to the Liberty Elementary School, and so we will not be backfilling the Inadequate space. In the elementary, before the override, we were going to take 20 classroom teachers out. Now it is 9. So we will have some elementary class sizes that are bigger than normal, but again, this allows us not to have to redistrict. And in general, the class sizes are, appropriate for each grade level involved. Math and reading specialist, we previously were going to cut 3 of them. Now it's just the one that I identified. It's the Inadequate position. And this is, again, how we're putting media back. At the middle school, without the override, 16.6 positions were to be lost. Now it is 8.4. And again, one of those positions is going to media. So that's the South position. At the high school, where we were going to cut 17, it's 5. It's really closer to 8, and I'll explain why in a second. But from 17 down to 5 subject area teachers. In art, there were going to be 4 positions lost. Now there are no positions lost. In music, we go from 3.2 positions that would have been cut down to 1. And this is at the high school that the teacher lands in another role. So the music program at the high school loses 1 position. Physical education, we were going to lose 4.6 positions. Now it's only 2.4. These are coming out of the high school. Class sizes will allow for this, so we were anticipating that regardless. Sped staffing, we had talked about taking 6, we're still taking the 6. Many of those positions are paraprofessional positions, and we've worked with special education to ensure that we can deliver the program with the reduction. Administrative assistant cuts remain 3.5 to 3.5. Central office, again, we're taking the cut that we had proposed. Technology is taking the cut that we proposed. The nurses are taking the cuts that we proposed. The security position, we're still taking that. The registrar position at the high school, we're still taking that. The tutoring program, we're still taking that. And the copy center, we're still taking that. We would return the hall monitor under these numbers. So we go from 90.9 positions lost to 43.7 positions lost. Of those 43 positions that are being lost, about 21 of them were retirements or people who were leaving on their own volition, regardless of budget. So these are position losses, but they're very, and it's meaningful when it's your job, and empathetic towards that. But just for your knowledge, it's really about 20 people that are losing their positions that would have anticipated having a job next year. This morning, we put out letters to the people who had received RIF notices on May 15th that we knew were coming back saying you have a job here next year. Tomorrow, letters will go out rescinding the bumps that were necessary at 75 million. Most of them go back to their original positions. Some people are still being bumped, but the vast majority return to their initial position. So at this point, it's full steam ahead in terms of scheduling for both the middle schools and the high school. And we'll continue to work the numbers. Things, as they do every year, will continue to change. But this is what it looks like after Saturday, and it looks a whole lot better in terms of what it was. But happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Mr. Rolo or Dr. Hargett? Did she leave? Somebody left.
She left.
She left.
Oh, I came
I don't
back.
have
I
any
just wanted to thank the community.
Any comments or questions on the results after the override passed?
Yes. Thanks for the community for voting for it and saving positions.
Mr. Rolo, anything?
I would echo that. It is a morale boost to see the results on Saturday. So
I would like to
Mr.
thank
Tuffy?
I would like to thank the many volunteers and the steering committee for the Yes for Braintree. That was Dr. Horak, Mr. Rolo, Ms. Fisk-Heger, and Councillor Flaherty. They made sure that the community had information and could make an informed decision when they were at the polls. So it was a tremendous effort, and I was very pleased to see the community support.
Thank you, Ms. Tuffy. And this is, obviously there's still cuts, but it's so much better than, and just to echo Ms. Tuffy and even Mr. Lee's comments that, and to thank Braintree voters, 67% of the people that voted supported the override, which was higher than I think anyone expected. That speaks volumes to how important the services that we have, schools, police, DPW, how important they are to the community. So again, I just want to echo the thanks to those who voted in support of this. And I also wanted to thank the hundreds, because there were hundreds of volunteers that stepped up to canvass, go door to door, hold signs, just to talk to their neighbors, just to spread the word on social media, all of that. Again, just wanted to thank everybody who stepped up in support of this. And it really has made a huge difference, and we are forever grateful. So thank you. Anything else? Anybody else has? No?
Last day of school tomorrow.
Last day of school. Then good thing before the heat wave.
Right before the heat wave, like we
All right.
planned it.
So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Tuffy,
Second.
second by Mr. Lynch. Mr. Fogarty,
Aye.
Ms. Tuffy,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Dr. Horak,
Aye.
Mr. Rolo,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. We are adjourned.